Elizabeth
Mika Tausda,
whatever.
yeah,
Her birthday is the same as mine.
Yeah.
Mika
Tausda.
Juliet, she has a little girl,
she's a
Juliet.
okay.
Her
She
mom.
used to teach here. Okay.
Yeah.
Her mom has Valentine's birthday.
There we
So we are Scorpios.
Are you doing anything special?
Hi, everybody say hi to Lauren.
Hi,
10 days for her birthday, Lauren.
and all I really asked for was
Hi, Lauren.
to go to the spa. I want a pedicure and a massage. Yeah.
I thought it was really funny. My mom,
I
my
thought
parents'
that's
anniversary
fair.
was in, we were just talking about
That's not your word, sorry.
my mom and my dad's anniversary was in October. And then my dad told him,
Mine was too.
oh, well, happy anniversary. So my dad told me, he's like, I'm going to take your mom to Anywhere Loves. And it was really funny because she goes, oh, we go another time. So she didn't know. And she's like, she was saying how she's like, let's just kind of like fix up the house some more. And then she's like, we can go around like Christmas time when I get my bonus. And I was like, you don't know what you're missing out.
I've never been there.
She hasn't either. That's the thing. And so,
I've never really had a desire to go there.
Wait, what is
Yeah.
that?
Anywhere
It's
Loves.
just a really expensive restaurant. And
Is
it's
it here in
for
Fort Wayne?
Everything's
Yeah,
a la
it's by
carte.
Jefferson Point.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everything's
very
a la carte,
expensive.
which means if you order a steak, it doesn't come with stuff. You have to order everything separate.
Mm-hmm.
One of my students at Southside was a valet there, you know, the person who parks car, and he made a ton of money.
I'm sure.
Tips and stuff, yeah.
I went there for my 16th birthday. My parents like took me there
Uh-huh.
for my 16th.
Did you like it?
But the only thing is, my birthday was on a school day, so like by the time we got to go out to eat, then we didn't get home till forever because I'm just really impatient and they take a long time just because it's a nice restaurant.
Right.
They take their time, bring their food and all this stuff, and I'm like, I just can't handle this. Like the food's good, but I don't want to wait 3 hours for like
Yeah.
my main meal.
Yeah, and see, my birthday's on a Monday, so but it's also a holiday. It used to be you didn't have school, it's Veterans Day. So, but we can't decide if we're gonna go out to eat
I mean, you could have just not made us fast.
Sunday or Monday or, you know, because everyone's schedules are different and just trying to decide what to do. But yeah, I wanted to go to the spa, but I also want some boots, so I don't know.
Like Uggs?
No, like riding boots.
Oh, I love my riding boots. I just got a pair.
Yeah, to wear with long skirts and stuff, I would wear them a lot, I think. And I wanted some for a few years, but my calves have been too chunky. So I'm hoping that with my recent weight loss adventure that maybe they've thinned down a little bit and I can zip them, but we'll see. And I haven't decided where I want to eat. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air.
When I was in San Francisco, Bersham was having their amazing sale. And they had riding boots and they were like really good deal. And I wanted to get a pair, but my mom was like, honey, if you wear those home, you're gonna be like dying of like heat exhaustion because it's gonna be like, because the temperature difference
Oh,
is
yeah.
like huge, so she didn't let me get them. But like, I was like, I can put them in my suitcase. She's like, they're gonna get ruined.
Yeah.
They were so pretty though.
They
were such a good deal, like for the brand that they were, they
Yeah.
were just like incredible.
Yeah.
Usually we wait for the
I
can't
love
decide
Gardner.
if I
My
want
birthday's
to,
on Saturday.
not a cheap
I'm not
pair, but
going-
you know,
I'm not going out to eat.
Just,
My birthday's on Saturday.
I'm just terrible about spending money on myself, you know, I always spend it on the kids.
That's how my mom
Yeah.
is.
But okay, illicit, what's it mean?
Forbidden, not permitted.
Yes, I love the example that's given in your packet, kind of cracks me up. Did you read it? I'll read it out loud to you. The fourth grader learned many illicit words from a pamphlet that was being passed around school. It's an adjective, forbidden, not permitted.
Who writes these sentences?
I don't know. The
Said
essay-
that orange socks were forbidden in the city.
Illicit, you mean?
What was?
I said orange socks.
Were illicit?
Yeah.
Usually, I've heard the word associated with affair. She's having an illicit affair, a forbidden, not permitted, but aren't all affairs?
That's what I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, what are
Yeah.
affairs?
Well, I guess, but like there can be like affairs that are like, I don't know, like.
Company affairs?
Yeah, like.
Right,
or
right,
something
right.
like
love
that.
affair.
Get togethers, right.
I feel like affair has like the wrong perception that people have for it because of like love affairs or something, but it can also mean like good things, like trust.
She had an affair with her books.
Yeah. So, it's not like that.
Right. You had an affair with Wuthering Heights.
Did you?
Okay,
I thought it was
That's
hard to
okay.
get through.
1984.
It's just kind of, I think it's funny because it's really hard to imagine, like, because he's describing this whole world and it's hard to imagine it being in 1984 because when we think of 1984 and how it really happened, you know,
Mhm.
people were in, like, tight spandex pants
Yes.
and jumping.
Yes, I graduated in
the
'86, so
80s.
it's very, it's in my mind, you know. And
Like Austin Powers.
Yeah.
That's what I think of.
that's more '70s.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
And then the 80s, like, with big hair.
Yeah.
So I'm like, when I
And
think
big
about this, I'm
hair.
like, I feel like it's like something like in the 3000s.
Madonna, yeah, right. Well, I wanted to share with you an article, and I wish Lauren and Olivia were here, but, and I don't know if you're even familiar with this because you guys aren't in public school, but there's this movement coming through called the Common Core. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but you can Google it sometime. And it's the Indiana standards are being redone into what's called the Common Core. And we've had parents at parent-teacher conferences ask us, just this past conference, if we're going to be using the Common Core standards. And I said, I don't think so, because we don't have to do what the state tells us to, which is one of the reasons I like not being accredited, because we have a lot of freedom. Well, there are these three ladies who read 1984 just recently and compared it to the Common Core standards. And it's very frightening to think that, and they listed quotes from the book to support the Common Core standards and why we shouldn't go to the Common Core standards and how it's just more government control and what our kids learn. The Common Core here's what it means. Let me try and explain it to you. Each state has their own requirements for their schools. Okay? The government doesn't like that. They want all states to be the same. So like whether you're sitting in a classroom in Nevada or Maryland or Florida or Indiana, you're all learning the same things. Okay? It's so they can really keep accurate data on your standardized testing. Well, that's called Common Core because it's common throughout the whole United States. Well, there are lots of people who don't want that to happen. They want each state to have a say in how they educate the students in their particular state. And they're also thinking of making preschool mandatory. And that's another big issue.
I went to preschool, but I don't think it really makes a difference because what do you do in preschool? You
Well,
run around with
Needs like child
children.
interaction.
I can argue both ways. Preschool can, from a teacher standpoint, preschool can be beneficial. Even if you didn't learn anything educational, you learned a routine, you learned structure, you interacted, you polished your social skills, right? Maybe you learned your alphabet, your numbers, write your name. You were just a little further ahead than some of the other kids who didn't go to preschool, right? But then the argument against that is you're taking their kids from their moms at an earlier age, and it was really interesting article, and I'm sending it to the other teachers.
Anyway?
Pardon?
Isn't preschool only like a half day anyway?
That's how it starts out, but so did kindergarten used to be. And now it's all day.
Kindergarten's all day?
Yep.
Mhm.
That was half day when I went there.
Yeah,
Not anymore.
change that.
All my kids went to full day kindergarten.
Cause did you
Let's go every day a week, or, oh, mine, I was just like, there were like the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then like the Tuesday, Thursday people.
Mine had to because we both worked and there was no place for them to go, so all day kindergarten.
I was only half day, and then going in the mornings,
Yeah.
some of them were
It used to be, so did I when I was young, but the connection between 1984 and books like Brave New World and what's happening in society and in our government today are very eerie. And after reading the article that these ladies wrote, it's disturbing, the amount of government control over our society. And it just got me to thinking, so I sent that article to the other teachers just to read. Because, you know, in our environment right here, we're a little sheltered from what's going on in the education world outside these walls. And the only reason I pay attention is because I still have a kid in public school. And people are complaining about the Common Core, but nobody's really listening. And that's an issue, because it shows that people are buying into it, right? And that's disturbing, because if no one's willing to stand up for something, then everyone's just gonna go along with it. And it's just like Winston, right? He is bucking the system. Or just like Montag in Fahrenheit 451, he bucked the system, right? Or just like the main character in Anthem, he bucked the system. You see it time and time again, and we have these examples. You know, and I was talking with other colleagues about the book Night and about the Holocaust and the possibility of another Holocaust. Could there be another Holocaust? And it's very scary to think that there could be. Not necessarily with Jewish people, but with anyone, you know. Name a group in our society that people become annoyed with, right? You know what I mean?
There's so many.
Right.
People could like just name off. It would be like.
All it would take would be a leader like Hitler to be very persuasive and find a group of people who are desperate for leadership and persuade them to get rid of, well, look at the white supremacists. We have our own group here in Indiana, just up in Angola. The KKK is alive and well, and they don't like black people. And it's more than that. They don't like gay people. They don't like anyone who's not like them, right? So it could be anyone. There could be a group targeting women. There could be a group targeting a certain religion, you know? And so it's very unsettling when you think, could another Holocaust happen and who would be targeted? And since I am like immersed in these books, I'm constantly thinking, but then are you being paranoid, right? Because then we like to think that we've come such a long way as a society, right? We think, that is not going to happen. We've learned from our past, we've learned from history, we've learned from the mistakes. But yet, look what's happening with our government right now. I mean, we're not in a good place. We're in a very unsettled place in our government. And January 15th, we face another government shutdown, because that's when they're going to have to make the decision again. And, you know, it's very disturbing when people with power can't agree on something. And when you look at, just this morning on the way in, Molly and I were listening to the radio, I don't know what they call their leaders in Canada, but I'll just say mayor, for lack of a better example, the mayor of Toronto was caught on tape smoking crack. And he was asked about it, and he admitted it. And I'm sitting here listening. He's still the mayor, and he's not resigning. I'm sitting here listening to this on the radio, and he says, in the microphone, he says, well, people make mistakes, and I will never do it again. And it's like, is that okay? Are we happy with that? Are we happy that a leader, a mayor, a leader of a city smoked crack, is that okay? You know? I mean, look at our leaders, right? Look what Bill Clinton did with Monica Lewinsky. George Bush admitted to using cocaine. Bill Clinton admitted to smoking marijuana. Are those okay? They're better than crack, in my mind. Crack? That's okay. I was very disturbed by that.
I think I'm more disturbed by it because that defines them as a hypocrite, because they make it illegal to do it for average citizens, and then when they find it okay for themselves to do it, they don't think that they should be punished for it, yet they feel like people should get 17 years for trying to transport it.
I also heard on the radio that Portland, Maine they just legalized marijuana. My niece lives there. I'll have to email her and see what she thinks of that. But it's the first city on the East Coast to legalize it.
The first one is,
They're gonna have
That's
a
what
big
they said.
population change.
Wait, what state?
Portland, Maine just legalized marijuana. What's your thought on that? You guys are young. I mean, the jails are full of people who've been busted for smoking and dealing marijuana. That's one of the arguments. Why are we arresting those people and they're taking up jail space when we have like harsher criminals who
Nefarious.
could use that space?
I actually did a report on that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, a lot of the percentage of people in prisons are people that have gotten like many years, like I said, there's.
For
people
drug
that have gotten,
crimes.
Like 20 years in jail because they were just transporting it, they weren't even using it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, on average, let's say like a rapist gets 5 years
Mhm.
and then gets let out
Mhm.
because there's not enough space.
We talked about this at home and my oldest daughter says, make it legal, but tax the crap out of it.
Like cigarettes.
Mm-hmm. It's legal, but make it so expensive.
No one will buy it.
And then another friend said, and that money should go to education. Did you know in Muncie, Indiana, where Ball State is? This is all over the news too, I've given you like 3 things you need to go Google now. In Muncie,
I read the newspaper every morning, so.
they can't afford school buses anymore, so they're not gonna have school buses, and the city of Muncie wouldn't agree to raise taxes to pay for them.
Yeah.
So
But
how
where are all
are,
the
how
other
are
tax
4,000 kids gonna get to school?
Well, and then another thing is that they're not budgeting very well because people are still paying taxes, so where are all those tax dollars?
And it would only raise taxes $33 a person a year per family to use the money for school buses next year. And what's gonna happen is people aren't gonna move to Muncie, they're hurting the economy and they're hurting the housing market. People aren't gonna move there because, especially people with families, because they're gonna say, how are the school systems? Well, the schools are okay if you can get there. There's no school buses anymore. And they're gonna be like, what? Well, if you have both your parents work and they can't transport you, we rely on those school buses to get our kids places. I don't, but I have before in the past. It's crazy. I've never ever heard of that. And that's just an hour south of here, right? I mean, at least Fort Wayne, they just raised our taxes quite a bit to do all the restorations to Snyder and South Side and North Side and all of that. But, you know, some of the smaller towns, which Muncie is a small town, if you move Ball State out of there, it would be a very small, kind of backwards little town. And well, some people might not value education enough. They don't need to go to school. Right?
Well, the thing is that transportation to school has always been, it's always been there because it's mandatory for people to go to school.
Right.
And if they don't have the means to get their kids there, well, at least they could, put them on a bus.
Right.
But if that's not there, then there's the
Is it the dumbing
Concern.
down of society?
yeah, and then there's the concern of, should I even be sending my child to this school?
Right.
This would only, I'm sorry to say this, but I really think this would only happen in Indiana, like in the Midwest especially,
Yeah.
because
Or in America
we're,
even.
and yeah, even in America, just because, like,
We're the richest country, but yet we do some of the dumbest
I don't
things,
understand.
you know?
Mhm.
And so all of these things, you know, are within government control, and it's all connected to what Orwell wrote about, you know, and what is going to what could happen to society, what he predicted. So what was his purpose in writing this? Is this a warning?
Well, it's like maybe he's portraying himself as Winston and writing a diary
Okay.
to inform the people that
Is this a warning that's sitting on all of our shelves all these years, and only the people who've been assigned to read it know about it? Same for Night. Is that a warning? I mean, Wiesel said himself, he's written 47 books and he hasn't even begun to scratch the surface of what happened in the concentration camps. He said, all I can do is write and inform people. But people have to read it to be informed, right? And when most people see this book, they're like, I'm not reading that, look how big it is. Right? When all along there was a warning sitting on our shelves? That's scary to think of it that way. But you know, I'll be 46 on Monday, and I'm thinking, in my lifetime, what have I seen happen? You know, and in your lifetime, you know, what have you seen happen? You were what, 16, 17, almost 18 years old. And like I said, I was a sophomore in high school in 1984. And what happened back then that was bad? Well, the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up with a teacher on it. Sally Ride was a teacher who was an astronaut. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but that was one of the biggest things to happen when I was in high school, and we were also at war with Iran and Iraq. What's new, right? That's constantly going on. But things are different now. It seems like there's a sneaky, deceitful element somewhere out there. The people in control or in charge are, and I'm not necessarily saying Obama, I voted for him. Am I happy with everything he's done? Absolutely not. You know? There's no way he can please everybody all the time. But I'm interested to see when his term is up. I bet, you know, Hillary Clinton will run for the Democratic Party. I'm interested to see who the Republicans will nominate. Never in a million years did I think, when I was a sophomore in high school, that what's happened to teachers would happen in the whole teaching profession. I never thought, because teachers used to be like up on pedestals, very respected members of the community. And what has happened? We've taken away their salaries, their unions, their rights, and now we're basing their salary on kids' performance on tests. My husband will get money on November 15th based on last year's ISTEP scores when he was at Wayne High School. He gets $2,000. So teachers aren't, people who are going into teaching, they don't want to teach in districts that have failing kids if you're gonna get paid according to how they do, right? You wanna go to the Carrolls and the Homesteads and those kinds of schools, right? Where kids actually perform well, so you're guaranteed a little bonus. And therefore, when you have bad schools, that affects the entire neighborhood, right? Because nobody wants to move or buy a house where there's a failing school. The elementary school in my neighborhood is a failing elementary. It's been labeled that by the state, which is why Jack goes to St. John's Catholic, because I didn't want to put him in a failing school. So, and that's why we're going to try and sell our house in the spring, right? Because we're worried what's going to happen. So, do you see any similarities, you know, in 1984? And we've talked about this a little bit before. What's happening, and in your lifetime, do you see anything that is alarming to you, or disturbing to you, or that bothers you, or that concerns you. I know we talked about technology and how that's definitely changing. And you have limited access to technology here, you know, for sure. But at the same time, not all technology is good, right? I don't want to do away with books. I want my book, right? I want my library, I want my bookstore, yeah.
Well, yesterday, it's funny you mentioned that, my mom was like, well, now you can get like Point Magazine on the iPad, and I was like, I don't like that. I like having it like in your hand and like have like being able to like turn the page yourself and
Me too.
the satisfaction of actually closing the book and finishing it. And I don't know if that's like old fashioned, and maybe I am old fashioned, but you know, I personally like having the actual thing there instead of just a screen and you're just
I do
swiping
too.
it.
I do too.
Well, and then it makes me think, radiation that's put off from technology, like your phone.
Yes, yes.
Especially holding it up to your ear.
Yeah.
A lot of it
Mhm.
causes mutation within the cells. that
The
can
lower
cause
school was just
cancer.
talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, and it just kind of like freaks me out because like we have that in our body every single time.
Oh, I thought it was rain at first.
It's funny. Like,
But then like because you think like we're surrounding ourselves with more like technology, and not only like because I feel like even people don't use technology as a form of education but entertainment.
Yes.
Because so like iPads that they give away in schools, you can still play video games on them. So what do you think kids are doing?
unless they're blocked, yes.
Well, yeah, but like from what I've heard.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
unlock.
Oh, I totally understand, and we can't, society doesn't seem to be able to be without our phone, you know. Did you see that documentary? It was just on last week. The mom took the girl's phone away for I don't know how long, and she was literally like, she seemed like she was ready to kill someone. She had to have it, she didn't know what to do with herself or with her time. It was just an experiment they did,
It's like a habit.
yeah.
Like if you're like a smoker.
Yeah.
Like if you have it like just taken away, you kind of like.
You have an
Like
oral
you just say,
fixation.
yeah.
Lauren, you had your hand up, huh?
I was just gonna say, like, the morals of kids have, like, changed, and, like, respect for teachers you were talking about is lost like that, because, like, the type of things that your kids say nowadays, like, oh my gosh, like, we never would have been allowed to say
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
It's sad.
You're right, and it's funny you would say that, because, you know, I taught for 20 years in the public schools, and after about year 15, I started asking myself, is it just me? Am I old-fashioned? Am I old school? Is this really how kids are everywhere? And I should just roll with it? Or should I still uphold the morals and values that I, you know, hold true to myself? Or am I just being a stick in the mud? You know, I ask, because you're right, kids change, and then you'll have people say, oh, remember when you were that age, everyone thought you guys were, you know, bold or rude or whatever. Hey, sorry. And then you're like, well, maybe, but you're right, there comes a point where you're like, what's acceptable and what's not? Just like when we were talking about the drug use. Is it acceptable that our leaders have done illegal drugs? Is that acceptable? Because, you know, you can't run for president until you're like 30-something, so 32, I think. Is it realistic for us to expect that they have led a pure, innocent life? Or do we want them to be able to relate to the general public and say, yeah, I smoked weed, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And then we're like, you're our president, you should, I don't know. I definitely am against the guy who smoked crack.